All right, we are careening out of control like a distracted driver in San Antonio. It's Gang of Four on News Talk 550 KTSA and online
Kevin
at
Wolf.
KTSA.com. Now, what's going on here? You're getting Diane Cibrian's getting text messages from
a politician.
Kevin Wolf.
County Commissioner Kevin Wolf.
Was he driving when he sent you that?
Absolutely not. He was not. He worked so hard for us. He and I band together to cut your taxes, Jack, and does a great job for us. At the County Commissioner's Court, and Louis Barrios is jealous because he texted me first.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh.
So shout out to County Commissioner Kevin Wolf.
That's right. He was covering his
Just
tracks.
tell us where you're at, Kevin. We'll send the police. Thank you.
You know what's so weird, though, about this? And you know, Louis, you were bringing up all of these busybody nanny state ordinances. Every time we have these discussions, we compare ourselves, or our elected leaders compare ourselves to other cities. Well, we should do this because Austin did it, El Paso did it, this one, that one. I don't know, maybe I'm able to see this because I'm not from San Antonio. Mm-hmm. The reason those of us who moved here and stayed here love it here is because you're not like all those other cities. I've been a lot of places. This is a really unique city. If you let these leaders turn it into another San Francisco, another Boston, another overregulated, politically strangled town, you'll be sorry. I mean, you can't get that uniqueness back again. Why don't people understand that?
Well, look at the smoking ordinance, for example. You can still smoke on the Riverwalk. You can still smoke at the Alamo, the number one of the two top tourist attractions in the state of Texas. You can still smoke certain places, so they follow the leader to get their big headlines, to get their designation, so they can run for another office. And at the end of the day,
but this Me Tooism is
it's terrible that
disgusting.
they follow the leader. And
I don't know if it's Me Tooism. I think what it is that somebody gets elected and go, okay, what do I do now? Yeah. Let me do something.
So they crib off the other cities.
You know,
well, yeah,
but I think it is somewhat Me
Too,
Too, because I've been in those private meetings where folks say, you know, Austin did it, we should do it.
Go to Austin then. Go live in Austin.
Well, and that's what I would say. You know, if you want to go live in Austin, that's a great thing, but we want to create jobs here. And if you look at the jobless rate, and Jack, you were speaking of that earlier. Okay, so let's do the real math for San Antonio. San Antonio is above 7% in joblessness, so in unemployment. So if you look at the state of Texas is above 8, the nation is above 9. These are record highs for the city and for our country. So if you see what's happening nationally and see this as a trend that could come here as well, we need to understand that right now we should be creating an environment that is pro-business, pro-job creation, and that is working to find real solutions. Like right now, folks that are stuck in traffic. The commute in San Antonio has risen very dramatically to 24 minutes. That is not okay for the future of the city.
Well, you know, somebody was making a point this week about who gets into politics, the kind of people that are drawn into politics, and it typically is people, A, who like politics, and B, who want to get their hands on the levers of government to do something with it. So when we have these discussions about why don't they leave us alone, why don't they let businesses grow and thrive, the kind of people who think that way seldom get into politics. In fact, they kind of shy away from it, Louis, I think, because they figure, I've got a good name, I don't want it dragged through the mud, I don't want to play these ridiculous games you have to play, or you know, debase myself. So, in a way, the voices we most need to hear in this debate, we don't usually hear because they're busy running their businesses or working 70 hours a week, and they're staying away from it, right?
Well, it goes back to what the Founding Fathers did. They looked at running and serving in office as a tour of duty. They were going to leave their private businesses. They were going to get into public policy positions, and then they were going to come back to the private enterprise. I don't think that they considered a career politician when they were setting up all the rules.
We were talking about that this week. You know, if you think about it, these career politicians are making laws they will never have to live under because they're planning on spending their entire lives in elected office at one level or another. Whereas in the old model, yeah, if you made a law about farming and you had to go back to your farm in 5 years or 6 years, you were going to have to live under that, and maybe you thought about it differently or took a different view of it. But I don't know. I don't see it changing anytime soon. Well, I think maybe this Tea Party movement, Diane, has brought in a few of those people, but we still need the people that are staying out of this debate. They're the ones we most need in it.
You know, I agree with you, and I'll give you a direct example at City Hall when I was trying to cut property taxes, and there were multiple city council members who did not own homes. They did not understand property taxes. They didn't understand how property taxes had risen astronomically within the city of San Antonio and what that meant to real families. And so it was very hard to overcome the lack of home ownership in the debate with another council member who does not and never has owned a home. So it's exactly what you're talking about, Jack. We absolutely need more folks to stand up and serve. I served because I believed in what Louis was talking about, and that is the concept of the tour of duty. I come from a family history of having served in the community, so I believe in service. Since I've left office, I've had so many people ask me, when are you running again? What are you running for? I may run, I may not run. I didn't run to be a career politician, and it's uncertain as to whether or not I'll run in the future. I may, if I feel like we better get our hands back on the reins of city government again or in another office. But I'll tell you, service should be limited, and we should all try to serve at some point in our lives, including you, Jack. When are you running?
This is my service, Diane Cibrian.
It's Jack and Diane show.
This is my service. The people are my constituents. 599-5555. It's Gang of Four on KTSA. All right, let's shift gears. Let's talk about the Falcon Lake story. This week we've had the sheriff of Zapata County call on the gangs down there to cooperate. We've had the governor call on the Mexican government to cooperate. Is the fact that David Hartley's body is not turning up because these people are not cooperating, or is it possibly because the story itself is not true? What do you think about this story?
You know, it's highly speculative. So here's what I've read about the story, and that is that these two individuals had actually been on the lake prior to this one visit. So what are they doing up and down Falcon Lake when there's this national and international call that these waters are so dangerous? And if they are in fact jet skiing and they're going to scuba dive, how can you scuba dive in this water where there's very limited visibility? It's so murky. So I think it's questionable as to why they were on the lake in the first place. And what we have to understand is that this is land that's literally divided between this country and Mexico, and so it's not wholly controlled by the U.S. But I think there's more to this story than what you and I know.
All right. Any other hunches? Any other thoughts about this?
No, but I find the speculation interesting because it's kind of like the gentleman, what was his name, Jewell, that was charged originally with bombing at the
Olympics.
Yeah. And so everybody starts, speculating, and then in the process of doing that, kind of tearing
But he
apart.
was declared a suspect by the authorities before people speculated.
Well, but the authorities, in essence, speculated
Right.
in terms of saying, well, we think we got enough, and now let's name him because
Right,
they felt a pressure to do it. But I guess what I'm saying is that if the story is true, then all of this other talk is pretty hurtful. And I'd almost rather, and I know it's not good radio, but I'd almost rather pull back and say, well, let's see what we find out once we get the facts.
That's why you're a judge.
Jack, I do have an opinion on this if you have some time.
Sure.
Okay.
I have till 1 o'clock.
Seconds. Hurry up, man.
Where's my puppy Taco?
I feel about this the way I feel about people mountain climbing Mount Everest and then getting lost or caught in an avalanche. If you want to do something dangerous, then take out an insurance policy, so if something happens that you didn't plan on, that insurance will come and rescue your body or rescue you or send the helicopters. Taxpayers paying for stuff when people do things that are not the most intelligent thing to do, I guess is the best way to put it. To me, it doesn't fare well with me as a taxpayer.
I think that's a good point. I don't know a lot about the scuba diving aspect. That was the first I'd heard of that, Diane, so that's interesting too. I guess the reason we wonder, though, did this go down as Tiffany Hartley says it did, is because there have been so many recent stories, usually involving married couples, sadly, where to cover up one thing, you invent this whole other scenario. Look, the woman that threw acid in her face, Susan Smith, Charles Stewart up in Boston about 20 years ago. And it used to always be the mystery phantom assailant was always a black person in these stories. Now I guess it would be very trendy to say that the mystery assailant were some bad dudes on the Mexican border. That's very in at the moment. So I think her story to a lot of people sounds like it would be a very good one to make up if you were covering something else, and then you have the absence of any evidence, so far. I don't know how significant that is. We talked to an FBI profiler, and he said, that could be pretty significant, or it could be that it just takes X number of days for, the body to come back to the surface. It's really hard to say.
Well, of course, the issue was with the life preserver. I think there was some story that he was wearing a life preserver.
I mean, to what you're saying, Steve, I think this is different than the Atlanta bombing, because in the Atlanta Olympic bombing, the authorities are the ones that screwed up on Richard Jewell. The public was simply following the authorities' lead. In this case, people are nobody has officially declared Tiffany Hartley a suspect, but people are reacting to her story by saying, I don't know if I believe this.
No, and I mean I agree with that, but it's kind of like if it truly happened, and then every time somebody says she's lying, she's covering up something horrible, I'm just simply saying that's got to really be hurtful.
She even said in her Good Morning America interview she can understand why people are having a hard time believing her story.
But what I found interesting was that somebody said she offered to take a polygraph. That would never come to my mind. It's kind of like, my story's true, can I take a polygraph, or do you want me to take a polygraph?
What do you mean it would never come to your mind?
Well, that it's kind of like if I say the truth, I say the truth, and I don't have to prove I say the truth.
In a weird way, I probably read too many mystery novels. When somebody says, I'll take a polygraph, that raises a big red flag for me.
Yes.
Because of two things. One, I guess like you, I figure people that are burning with righteous indignation don't even think that. But two, I've heard that if you truly believe what you are saying, if you have the conviction of what you're saying, you can defeat that technology. I don't know if that's true or not. Do you know?
Yeah, in essence, what it relies upon is the internal stress caused by you're not telling the truth. Yeah, and if you have no feelings, if you're what's the word I'm trying to think of?
Sociopathic or deluded
then it's kind of like it ain't a lie because it ain't a lie.
Yeah. And of course, I talk to a lot of people every day who lie, and I know how good they are at it.
Hey,
and so
quit picking on politicians.
I didn't mean to look at you when I said
Look at that. Manny's looking right at me.
I'm in the lying business. I know how easy it is to do.
You've been talking to politicians all week. Yeah, I talk to people every day.
Listen, you're looking at a broken man. All right, you're looking at a guy who's been beaten up and battered by politicians all week. I can't help it. I had Rick Perry run out on me in the middle of an interview this week. I can't help it. I'm not myself today, Steve. All right, we have more Gang of Four coming up on a Friday morning, and you can vote in the JR poll at 599-5555 on KTSA.